This is Joe Garza with EPR Construction, and so the topic is a connected job site. And so I was running some numbers the other day, and there's a stat out there that actually shows that more than 75% of Americans have a smartphone. So whether you realize it or not, you have a connected project. Now, it may not be connected the way you want it to be, but we have a connected project right now. And how do we leverage that technology? How do we use that technology to benefit what our goals are and what your company goals are? And so I wanted to talk about what we're doing. And so really I want to start with, what are you trying to solve? And that's ultimately what we wanted to do when we identified this software we're going to be talking about, or the technology we're talking about. And so when we think about what we're trying to solve, we have to think about the end in mind. And so EPR's 2030 mission is to be the most admired company. That's a big BHAG, and that's something that we're working towards, and we're on that march. And so we often talk about, what does that look like? What's that vivid description? How do we know we got there? And so here's some of the things that we talk about. Our people practices. We wanted to be integral and indispensable to our community. And so our trade partners are huge, and they're a big part of our community. We wanted to be known to be aggressive and bullet smart. And then with regards to safety, what that looks like is being known for the safest contractor all the time, everywhere. And so that's really what that was what we were trying to solve. And so you got to know where you started and where you're headed. So this is an example of what we were trying to do. Is we had a file that was, in many cases, dead space. It's sitting there, probably if you turn around, it's probably behind your right-hand shoulder. It's a stack of paperwork. It's a stack of forms that was good information. There's probably some really big nuggets and some trends there that you can see. But how do you get to that trend? How do you get to that one nugget that tells you, hey, you've got a big problem around the corner? And so what we started looking for is a solution to go from paper to digital. How do we manage our safety program? How do we manage the people on our job site, the equipment, and understand that the end in mind is to get people home safe every day? So we started thinking about these big whys: engagement, consistency, and efficiency. And so when we started identifying, and what we ended up finding was HammerTech. HammerTech is an online platform that allows project teams to manage their projects. And so when we started looking at this solution, we found that it was an easy way for us to look, incorporate, and measure these three things. And we're going to focus on engagement, consistency, and efficiency. And so engagement in the fact that everyone plays a role is now not just the safety manager, the project team, trade partners, or line supervisors. Everybody on that project, in the plant, on your site, have an active role to play. There's this push-pull relationship between the technology. It's something that can be used either on a tablet, a computer, or a smartphone. And so what that allows us to do, that allows us to create consistent programs, one way to do things, one single source of truth for everybody to go to and identify, do we have the right processes in place? Do we have the right training in place? And do we have the right people to do those things? And then what that allows us to do is create this efficiency with crowdsourcing, ensuring that not just myself or a handful of people are assigned to manage safety and identify trends, but everybody on the project is pushing information and data into the system, and now we're able to collect it and use it in a greater way. So the intention behind this is to really get project team engagement at all levels. And so we use this term left of the line. And so the way safety impacts profitability is we get left of the line. That line would be the start or release point for any process or program. So, for example, if you have a crane pick or you are onboarding a trade partner, that would be left of the line. We are asking and able to track and measure performance before that start line goes. And we start at pre-construction, at the pre-bid, we go through onboarding and safety orientation, and then we integrate the processes that we have within this single platform. And again, it requires all people at all levels to engage this program, and with that, we're able to create trending. And so when I talk about trending, we've often heard the word lagging indicators and leading indicators. And so I'm arguing that there's another one. There's this midstream indicator that we don't really talk about. It's really hard to identify, but HammerTech allows us to create 3 different points of reference, so we can really try to solve problems a little differently and be bullet smart about the decisions that we're making. And so what I talk about, so obviously lagging indicators or injuries and things that are undesirable outcomes. A midstream indicator would be something to the effect of, what are we doing now? How efficient are we at maintenance of equipment, training, maintenance of our employees? Do we have the right people trained? Are we keeping those training records up to date? And then what about some of these permits and processes that have release points? Are we getting the right data in the right time, or is there anything that's holding up a specific work? So we're able to track that with HammerTech, with the tool, with this specific tool. And again, with the intention to go left of the line, and left of the line is behaviors. And what I mean by behaviors is, what should they be doing versus what are they doing? So if we're asking for a permit to be turned in within 24 hours prior to the work starting, we can measure when that request was submitted. We can track and push and pull conversations or requests, hey, you didn't complete this part of the permit. It could be, hey, there's some missing data. We don't know who that Firewatch is. All that information can be vetted out. It's pushed via email or a text to the planner, to the work planner, and that allows that person real-time interaction and engagement with whoever is the person that's approving the work. And now you get some real good efficiency. You're not going to just show up, hey, I've got some hot work to do within the next 20 minutes. Here you go. And suddenly you see all these gaps that you need to go back and refill and ensure that are in place before you can. So there could be some critical windows where you got to get in and interact with the customer. That allows us to ensure that that doesn't happen. So with regards to consistency, we're now able to connect the flow of information, the processes. We can connect a trade partner to their safety plan, make relationships between their safety plan and their processes, SDS sheets, JHAs, and eventually their employees. So an example would be, if we have a specific JHA that an employee is going to be working with or around, we can connect that worker to that SDS, and what that allows us to do is ensure that that person's been trained, and we can vet the level of knowledge that that worker has associated with that JHA or the SDS, or even some specific areas of the safety plan. That allows us continuity, that allows us this full connection to see the big picture on what should happen versus what's actually happened. And again, that gives us really left of the line, allows us to work through some of these issues before it's time to execute the work. So what's in it for me as a project team or project member or trade partner? Well, these are the 3 things that we say that HammerTech does for us, and what we're using it for is for safety inspections. So we can have customized safety inspections, and that can all be based on some of the trending that we're getting out of. We can be really pinpoint trends and say, hey, we're having issues with housekeeping or electrical or cranes, and identify a specific inspection template and say, hey, go out and do that as a project team. These are the things we want you to go out and solve. We don't need you to look at 1,000 data points. We need you to look at these 15 that matter most. With regards to enrollment and orientation, again, the intention behind this is to get way left of the line, make sure that we know who's coming, what are their credentials, do we have the right people, onboarding of equipment on the project, and do we have a qualified operator to perform the work that needs to be done. Are they associated with the right equipment? And does it connect to a JHA and the processes that we say lead to a safe work? And then finally, safety submittals. Again, from a safety plan to JHAs and SDSs, all of these things can be reviewed, managed. We can push back and create notes and say, hey, guess what? Your submittal says MSDS and it should be SDS. Those are things that we can now do, have this back and forth conversation within the platform. It's something that, again, helps us manage safety better. And so what now? We have all this data coming in. We all have this great tool. We need an engine to be able to push information out, sift it. It's not something that now we don't have to turn pages and put tick marks on a whiteboard. We have data that we can push out. It can now have data working for us instead of us working for the data. And so there are information that we can now create a heat map for. And in turn, what that tells us is that allows our team to know what's around the corner, where do we need to be spending most of our time. Again, making bullet smart decisions to ensure that we are being efficient with our time, we're being efficient with the needs of the project or the teams, and when we're requesting information, it's information that we know doesn't connect with the overall mission of getting people home safe. With that being said, I'm done. I'm going to hand it over to Jan.